Most men tend to approach relationships from a place of instinct rather than intention. Their choices are often dictated by convenience, emotional fear, or the pursuit of short-lived desires. For some, relationships are a means to gain validation. They chase attention as though it will fulfill an inner void. Others settle for companionship, not out of genuine compatibility, but simply to avoid the discomfort of loneliness. A significant number choose partners based on surface-level traits. A woman who turns heads in public, speaks with charm and wit, or feels comfortably familiar even if the connection lacks depth. These decisions may feel logical in the moment, but they're rarely built on a solid foundation. The Sigma male, however, operates on a completely different frequency. He doesn't drift into relationships by default, nor does he cling to others out of emotional dependence. He approaches connection with a mindset sharpened by solitude and strengthened by self-awareness. Before committing anyone, he steps back and observes. He pays attention, not just to words, but to patterns, energy, and intentions. His intuition isn't reactive. It's precise, often picking up on subtle behaviors that most overlook. Interestingly, the women he avoids aren't always overtly toxic or problematic. In fact, many of them might seem warm, nurturing, or magnetic on the surface. But beneath that charm lies a rhythm, a calculated behavior. That doesn't sit well with him. Once his internal alarm goes off, he doesn't ignore it. He listens to that signal and walks away, no matter how alluring the facade may be. What sets the Sigma apart isn't arrogance or insecurity, it's experience. He's seen enough to recognize the early signs of patterns that never end well. He's been through situations where initial excitement led to eventual exhaustion. That's why he doesn't get swept away by how good something looks at the start. He's learned that clarity is more valuable than chemistry, and that peace of mind is better than chaotic passion. So, when he detects red flags, whether they're loud or quietly persistent, he doesn't wait for things to fall apart. He makes the choice to leave before things get messy, before he has to sacrifice his inner balance. In the following sections, we'll explore the 8 distinct types of women that Sigma males consistently steer clear of. These aren't necessarily bad women, but they embody behaviors and mindsets that conflict with the Sigma male's core values. Understanding these types not only reveals how the Sigma sees the world, but also sheds light on why he protects his peace at all costs. 1. The woman who brags about having men on standby. At first glance, this woman presents herself as confident and carefree. She often comes across as charismatic, playful, and self-assured, using flirtatious humor and bold statements to draw attention. She might casually mention how many men are pursuing her, flaunt the texts and compliments she receives, or even joke about how she could have any man she wants if she put in the effort. To the average man, this might seem harmless or even flattering. A woman who knows her worth and isn't afraid to show it. Her apparent desirability becomes part of her appeal, giving the impression that being with her is somehow a privilege or an accomplishment. But to the Sigma male, this act doesn't reflect true confidence. It reveals something far more calculated. Beneath the light-hearted jokes and casual comments lies a deeper message. You are easily replaceable. She subtly positions herself as a prize in a constant competition, where men are expected to vie for her attention and approval. Relationships in her world become about ranking and performance. Each interaction is a silent test to see who will chase harder, who will be more eager, who will tolerate the presence of other men orbiting around her. For her, validation comes not from self-awareness, but from being desired by many and pursued by all. This dynamic is where the Sigma male draws a hard line. Unlike other men who might rise to the challenge or take the bait, the Sigma refuses to play games rooted in insecurity and manipulation. He doesn't see relationships as contests, nor does he feel the need to prove himself against a lineup of admirers. The moment he detected a woman is leveraging male attention as a tool for control, whether to stir jealousy, assert dominance, or test emotional reactions, he steps away, not because he's afraid of competition, and certainly not because he lacks confidence, but because he has no interest in entangling himself in shallow power struggles. For the Sigma male, peace, authenticity, and emotional clarity are non-negotiables. He values a woman who sees him as a partner, not a player in her personal game of status. And when he realizes that her self-worth hinges on external attention rather than inner confidence, He doesn't try to fix or challenge her. He simply moves on. 2. The woman who thrives on male attention. This type of woman lives for the spotlight, not in a theatrical sense, but in her deep-rooted dependence on external validation, particularly from men. Her self-worth is not cultivated from within, but constructed from the constant feedback she receives from others. Compliments from strangers, flirtatious interactions with coworkers, and likes or comments on social media aren't just welcome, they're essential. She curates her appearance, her presence, and even her personality for maximum impact. Whether she's posting pictures online, choosing outfits with calculated precision, or subtly encouraging attention in public spaces, her actions are less about self-expression and more about extracting admiration. Attention is an accessory to her life. It's the fuel that keeps her going. From the Sigma male's perspective, this behavior quickly becomes exhausting. As a man who values introspection, authenticity, and emotional calm, the constant demand for outside approval feels chaotic and artificial. He isn't interested in being part of performance. He doesn't want to play the supporting role, while his partner positions herself to be constantly admired by others. He prefers relationships that are grounded in mutual presence, not ones that feel like endless exhibitions of ego. What makes this dynamic even more problematic is how it unfolds over time. Her craving for attention often doesn't stop at innocent gestures. Eventually, it begins to chip away at the foundation of respect. She might make suggestive remarks in front of other men, dress provocatively not for herself but for the gaze of others, or even flirt openly while her partner is standing beside her. These behaviors aren't just insensitive, they're dismissive, signaling to the Sigma that his presence is secondary to her need for admiration. For a Sigma male, this is where the line is drawn. He doesn't walk away out of jealousy, nor does he feel threatened by the presence of other men. What bothers him is deeper. The realization that he's not sharing space with someone who's emotionally grounded. Her attention is fragmented, her loyalty undefined, and her identity is wrapped around being seen rather than truly known. Rather than confront her or try to change her, the Sigma simply exits. Because to him, a relationship should be a sanctuary, not a stage. 3. The woman who posts thirst traps but plays innocent. This woman is a master of subtle performance, crafting an online presence that toes the line between seductive and accidentally provocative. She's fully aware of the impact her photos have. The sultry angles, the carefully chosen lighting, the intentionally revealing outfits. Each post is designed to attract attention, spark admiration, and generate a stream of compliments, likes, and private messages. But when questioned about her intentions, she quickly retreats into feigned innocence. "It's just a cute photo," she insists, or "I didn't even think it was that revealing." The performance is calculated, designed to gain attention while denying accountability for the effect it creates. To many, this contradiction might seem harmless, even playful. But the Sigma male picks up on the deeper inconsistency. One of his core strengths is the ability to read between the lines, to detect when someone's actions don't match their words. And in this case, the disconnect is glaring. A woman who deliberately presents herself in a provocative way while claiming it's all unintentional is not being honest with herself or with others. This contradiction signals a subtle form of emotional manipulation, an attempt to control perception while avoiding responsibility. It's the kind of duplicity that instantly erodes trust in the Sigma's eyes. Importantly, the Sigma male isn't upset or threatened by the attention she receives. He understands the power of attraction and isn't intimidated by a woman's confidence or beauty. What turns him away is the lack of transparency. When someone is more focused on crafting an image than being authentic, especially when that image invites male attention while denying it was ever sought, he recognizes the tactic as a game. And Sigma males don't play games. They seek relationships rooted in honesty, self-awareness, and mutual respect. So when he sees the mask of innocence worn over deliberate provocation, he doesn't argue, criticize, or try to expose the truth. He simply walks away, not out of weakness, but out of clarity. Because to the Sigma, any relationship built on performance and pretense is destined to collapse, and he refuses to waste time on illusions. 4. The woman who constantly compares you to her ex. At first, it may seem harmless, A passing comment here, a brief story there. She might casually mention something her ex used to do, how he made her feel, or how certain habits or behaviors of yours remind her of him. It's never blatant, never aggressive. In fact, it's often subtle enough to pass as mere conversation. But over time, these moments accumulate. They start to linger, like a shadow in the room that refuses to leave. Eventually, it becomes obvious she's still emotionally tethered to her past. Whether she admits it or not, a part of her heart is still caught in what was, and that lingering attachment begins to bleed into the present. While many men might brush off these comparisons or try harder to outperform the ghost of the ex, the Sigma male responds differently. He doesn't compete with the past because he understands the futility in trying to prove his worth against someone who no longer exists in her life, at least not physically. The Sigma has too much self-respect to allow himself to be measured against another man, especially one who clearly left emotional wounds that haven't healed. To him, this isn't about jealousy or insecurity. It's about recognizing that her emotional bandwidth is divided, and he's being drawn into a story that isn't truly his to resolve. The moment he realizes he's being used as a benchmark, whether consciously or unconsciously, is the moment he starts pulling away. For the Sigma male, emotional presence is non-negotiable. If a woman is still reminiscing about her past relationship, still framing her present experiences through the lens of what once was, then she's not truly present with him. And no matter how promising things might seem on the surface, the Sigma knows that building a future with someone who hasn't made peace with their past is a recipe for disappointment. Ultimately, he walks away, not with resentment, but with quiet clarity. He doesn't leave to punish her or prove a point. He leaves because he values emotional wholeness, and he understands that he deserves to be with someone who's fully available, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally too. To the Sigma male, love should never feel like a competition with a memory. 5. The woman who tests loyalty instead of trusting. This woman doesn't voice her doubts directly. She operates in subtler, more calculated ways. Rather than expressing her concerns openly, she resorts to quiet tests, silent audits designed to measure loyalty without ever asking for it outright. It might start with vague, seemingly innocent comment meant to provoke a reaction. Or perhaps she suddenly grows distant, offers a cold shoulder without explanation, or makes a joke laced with hidden meaning. Something biting enough to hint at suspicion, but veiled enough to deny intent if questioned. These are not random acts. They are deliberate triggers, carefully placed to see how he'll respond. She's not looking for honesty. She's looking for performance that reassures her ego. From the Sigma male's point of view, this behavior isn't just unnecessary. It's emotionally draining. He recognizes that true loyalty can't be proven through staged scenarios or manipulative games. Loyalty to him is something you embody naturally through consistent action, quiet respect, and emotional integrity. When a woman tests his commitment by setting traps or creating emotional obstacles, it signals a deeper issue, a fundamental lack of trust. And for the Sigma, trust is the very foundation upon which all meaningful relationships are built. Without it, there can be no authenticity, only constant suspicion and emotional instability. More than anything, the Sigma male despises manipulation masquerading as care. He doesn't want to be in a relationship where he's constantly being measured, analyzed, or subtly doubted. He will not tolerate being treated like a suspect in a silent investigation, where every word or gesture is interpreted as a potential betrayal. The need for him to constantly prove his loyalty through manufactured situations doesn't reflect love. It reflects control, and he has no interest in partnerships rooted in power games or emotional baiting. So when he sees the pattern, when he realizes that his actions are always being monitored for loyalty rather than appreciated for their sincerity, he doesn't argue or defend himself. He simply disengages, not because he's disloyal, but because he knows that real trust doesn't demand constant testing. For the Sigma male, love must be a space of mutual respect, not a stage for repeated auditions. And when trust is replaced with suspicion, he won't try to fix it. He'll walk away. 6. The woman who is always jealous. For this woman, jealousy isn't a fleeting emotion. It's a constant, underlying current that colors her entire experience in a relationship. It doesn't take much to trigger it. A delayed reply to a message, a friendly interaction with another woman, or even a moment of emotional distance can ignite suspicion in her mind. She's quick to assume the worst, often without evidence, and her imagination fills in the gaps with scenarios that feed her insecurities. What to others might seem like harmless, everyday interactions are, to her, signs of betrayal waiting to happen. Her mind doesn't seek reassurance. It seeks control through constant surveillance and emotional interrogation. For the Sigma male, this behavior is both mentally and emotionally exhausting. He is a man who thrives on inner calm, independence, and authentic connection. Drama, especially when born from paranoia and baseless accusations, has no place in his world. He doesn't enjoy conflict, and he certainly doesn't entertain unnecessary emotional volatility. When every word he says, every action he takes, and every moment of silence is scrutinized or twisted into a reason for suspicion, it creates an environment where he can no longer breathe freely. And for a Sigma, freedom, emotional, mental, and relational, is sacred. What sets the Sigma apart is how he responds. He doesn't waste time arguing, defending himself endlessly, or trying to prove that her fears are unfounded. He won't coddle insecurity at the expense of his peace. Instead, he quietly assesses the situation and recognizes the truth. A relationship built on mistrust is not a relationship at all. It's a psychological prison where love is replaced by control and affection is tainted by constant doubt. And so, the Sigma makes his decision, not with anger, but with clarity. He steps away, not because he's heartless, but because he knows his worth. He knows that love should feel like a sanctuary, not a battleground. In his world, trust isn't optional, it's essential. And if a woman can't offer that, no matter how much she claims to care, he won't stay to suffer under the weight of imagined betrayals. Instead, he walks away, quietly, firmly, and for good. 7. The woman who escalates arguments just to win. This woman doesn't approach disagreements as opportunities for growth or mutual understanding. Instead, every conflict becomes a battlefield where the objective isn't clarity, but conquest. The moment she feels challenged, no matter how calmly the issue is raised, her response is to dominate the conversation. She raises her voice, talks over the other person, twists the original point, and employs emotional appeals or guilt-tripping tactics to shift the dynamic in her favor. Her intent isn't to resolve the issue or reach a place of shared truth. It's to assert power and make sure she comes out on top, no matter the emotional cost. To the Sigma male, this kind of behavior is a red flag he cannot ignore. He values reasoned dialogue, emotional maturity, and calm, constructive communication. He doesn't shy away from conflict, but he approaches it with logic, patience, and the intent to understand. The moment a disagreement turns into a shouting match or becomes performance of control and emotional warfare, he mentally checks out. He knows that in a truly healthy relationship, both people should feel safe enough to express themselves without fear of being emotionally steamrolled. More importantly, the Sigma recognizes that if a partner always needs to win an argument, then both of them are already losing. Relationships aren't competitions, they're collaborations. But to her, every disagreement becomes a test of dominance, where empathy and listening take a back seat to her need to feel superior. Over time, this constant need for emotional one-upmanship creates a toxic atmosphere where vulnerability is punished, not nurtured. So rather than shouting back or matching her intensity, the Sigma male does something unexpected. He disengages, not because he's weak or unwilling to stand up for himself, but because he refuses to feed the dysfunction. He doesn't waste his energy trying to prove a point to someone who only wants to hear herself win. And when it becomes clear that she values control more than connection, victory more than vulnerability, he walks away. For the Sigma, a relationship built on ego battles and emotional chaos is a dead end, and he's not afraid to leave it behind in pursuit of peace. 8. The woman who asks questions just to trap you. With this type of woman, conversation isn't a means of connection. It's a calculated game of chess. She doesn't ask questions out of genuine curiosity or desire to understand who he is. Instead, her questions are laced with hidden motives. Each one is a setup, a carefully placed bait designed to elicit a response she can use later. Not for clarity, but for control. She listens not to hear him, but to catch him. A slight inconsistency, A misunderstood statement or even an innocent admission can be stored and later twisted into ammunition in an argument or used to paint him in a bad light. To the Sigma male, this style of communication sets off alarm bells. He quickly senses when words are being recorded in mental files rather than received with empathy. He doesn't tolerate conversations that feel more like interrogations. While others might stumble, apologize, or second-guess themselves under the weight of these subtle traps, the Sigma doesn't play along. He recognizes manipulation from the outset, not just in what is being asked, but in how it's being asked. The tone, the timing, the passive-aggressive pauses. They all reveal an underlying strategy designed to assert control rather than foster connection. And so, he begins a retreat, not with anger, but with clarity. To him, communication should be honest, safe, and rooted in mutual respect. When dialogue becomes a minefield of trick questions and emotional traps, it's no longer a conversation. It's psychological warfare. And the Sigma has no interest in defending himself in a relationship that should be built on trust, not suspicion. Eventually, he leaves quietly. There's no dramatic exit, no heated confrontation, just a decision made with finality. He knows that when trust is replaced with tactics, and when intimacy is sabotaged by mind games, there's nothing left to salvage. The Sigma male values his peace, his mental clarity, and above all, his dignity. So when he realizes he's being played, not loved, he disappears. Silently, permanently. Conclusion: the Sigma's uncompromising standards. Sigma males are often misunderstood, not because they're cold or distant, but because they operate on a level of self-awareness and emotional discipline that's rare. Their decision to walk away from certain types of women isn't born out of fear, bitterness, or arrogance. It stems from a deeply rooted sense of self-respect. They've experienced enough in life to understand the emotional cost of entangling themselves with people who bring chaos, manipulation, or instability into their world. For the Sigma, peace isn't just a preference, it's a priority. He knows the value of his time, his energy, and his emotional bandwidth, and he protects it with unwavering resolve. To the untrained eye, it might seem like the Sigma is being overly selective or even harsh, but in truth, he's simply unwilling to settle. He doesn't chase temporary validation, nor does he try to fix someone who repeatedly shows signs of emotional immaturity or toxicity. If a woman operates in a way that undermines trust, plays mind games, or constantly seeks control through emotional tactics, he quietly disengages. No arguments, no drama, just a calm, intentional exit. For the Sigma male, a relationship must be built on firm foundations: trust, authenticity, emotional intelligence, and mutual respect. Without those elements, it doesn't matter how beautiful, charming, or exciting the surface may appear. He sees beyond appearances. He notices patterns. And once he recognizes that a connection lacks the depth and stability he needs, he doesn't cling to false hope or romantic potential. He simply moves on gracefully but without looking back. In the end, the Sigma male standards are not a form of emotional defense. They are a blueprint for a life of integrity. He knows what he brings to the table, and he refuses to share his peace with someone who would disturb it. That's not pride. That's wisdom. Do these ideas resonate with you? If you found yourself nodding along or reflecting deeply on the traits and experiences we explored in this video, I'd love to hear your thoughts. The Sigma male mindset isn't often talked about openly, and your perspective, whether you identify with it personally or have encountered in others, adds valuable depth to conversation. Drop a comment below and let me know. Which part hit home the most for you? Have you seen these traits in yourself or someone you know? Your insights help build a community where authenticity and growth are prioritized over popularity and performance. If you're drawn to this kind of introspective, no-nonsense content around Sigma males, psychological strength, emotional intelligence, and high-value living, there's more waiting for you. Explore the other videos on this channel for deeper dives, actionable insights, and raw truths that cut through the noise. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay sharp, stay grounded, and stay unapologetically real. Until next time.